I think we may safely say that half of the people of the earth today believe that between God as a supreme principle and man as the projection of that principle into society, that between these there are intermediaries, that there are always in the world certain God-enlightened prophets, certain great teachers, wise ones, as mentioned in the scriptures of every people, including the Christian scriptures, that this world is not suspended in a void, that we are not left without certain resources, and that if we wish to regard these resources as arising from an archetypal government within ourselves, then psychologically there is at the root of us a tremendous archetypal fraternity, a fraternity of purposes by which individuals are bound together at their sources, even though they are widely diversified and divided in their developments and in the periphery of their existences. The existence of this over-kind of government is man's way of symbolically stating that he believes in law, that he believes in order, that all the divine principles operating in nature are substantially invisible in themselves and visible only in their consequences. Yet these invisible principles are continuously conspiring, and conspiring with evidence of rational directive toward the improvement of man and the protection of those values which man has come to regard as indispensable. It is only a step, therefore, to consider a kind of hierarchy, a kind of overgroup, bound together by true knowledge, bound together by a common possession of realities, that this group forms some kind of a formal or informal structure, a structure which man most rapidly apperceives by retiring into his own nature and perceiving at the root of himself cosmos and structure rather than chaos and disorder. That most religions have from the beginning taught the realities of such prophets, such patriarchs, and have indicated that behind the general government of man there is an invisible government of principles. These principles administered by beings of some nature or kind, and that these beings form together the sacred and supreme government of the world. In Asia, this is commonly believed. In the Near East, it is held as a certainty. And many Western peoples have become profoundly sympathetic to such an idea. Your psychologist will take the attitude that this is merely an escape from personal responsibility, that every individual is looking for parents. Every one of us is looking for strength upon which to lead. We all wish to believe in some protection, some protective force, and we are unwilling to look upon community protection as sufficient. We are not willing to look upon our physical, political government as solutional, for the reason that in our serious contemplation we are unable to justify that the leadership which we immediately recognize is adequate for our ultimate needs. Under these thoughts and conditions, we naturally turn, as man has from the beginning, in the direction of faith. Faith being in reality, our conviction of the reality of certain substance which we do not see, and yet without which life is meaningless. We look into ourselves. We cannot see our own life. Yet by this life we live, and from it is suspended all that we do. We cannot see our thought. Yet by this thought we become reasonable beings. We cannot see the light that nourishes things, but we behold them to be nourished. Thus we cannot entirely overcome the belief that there resides in invisibles principles, powers, energies, and for that matter, rationalisms, which are not apparent immediately in themselves, but the reality of which we must accept in order to preserve our own integrities and rededicate ourselves to those ends which we know to be right. Ancient secret societies worshipped secretly the secret God. They worshipped a concept of a divine power moving continuously into life for the improvement of man. Modern human beings are not quite so convinced of this, yet in many parts of the world they have retained the old beliefs and strengthened them and rationalized them, and no amount of culture or westernization has been able to take it from them. Namely, that there is a tremendous preserving force administered intelligently by beings or persons who are party to the ultimate secrets of the divine purpose. That there are those as called God-illumined persons. And this illumination includes the conviction that there is a pattern, and that the laws, principles, and motions of society are governed from a root. And in contemplating this root, man has come to the inevitable conclusion that it is a godly formation, a godly grouping of beings. Such belief is of the mind of Islam. It is of the mind of India. It is of the mind of China. It is the mind of Japan. It is the mind of North Africa. For wherever these peoples go, the belief that there are among them certain saintly beings has never been questioned or doubted. Even among our Western Indians today, the belief in this over-government flourishes in the little desert pueblos. It flourishes also among the various religious sects of the area, both Indian and non-Indian. Everywhere there is the belief of an invisible intercession, a power moving in upon man, and it has been normal to assume that this power is composed of an organization, a government over governments, an archetypal government such as Plato expressed in his doctrine of the philosophic elect. That this being conceivable to man means that it is, that it exists. For man cannot imagine or devise out of himself that which is inconsistent with the universal framework in which he functions. So many nations look to this over-government with the greatest hope that it will ultimately lead to their liberation. Such is the mind of China today. Such is the mind of India. For beneath and behind all other allegiances is the allegiance to the great gods that dwell beyond the snowy band of Himavat. These gods are not merely deities alone, walking the earth. They are the great gurus, the teachers of teachers, and from them spreads out the great religious educational system of Asia. And this educational system is grounded firmly in the belief in an invisible hierarchy of illumined beings, to whom men can aspire and attain and serve if they pass through the necessary trials and testings as in the ancient religious system.